The Gold Rush, the 20th Amendment, and the Department of Homeland Security are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is January 24th, 2023. It is the 24th day of the year. You got 341 days left in 2023. It is the 4th Tuesday in the 4th week and 35th day of summer. You got 55 days left until spring. If today's your birthday, your birthstone is still a garnet. So this is weird how the brain works. There was a girl that I went to high school with. Actually, I went to school with her from 1st to 7th grade and then again high school. And she was a horrible person. She still is to this day. She's just mean. She lived on Garnet Street, not too far from my house. Every time I see the word garnet, I get in a bad mood. I'm still working through some stuff. Today is International Day of Education. International Day of Education is observed on January 24th every year. It looks at education from a broader perspective. The quality of education varies for children around the world, with millions still deprived from the basic human right of education. This day was created to campaign for better education reforms and improve access to education for all. One of the best ways to help everyone gain access to education is through scholarships. Check out Schoolaroo to find the top scholarships for January. All right, let's see what else January 24th has given us. 1884, the California Gold Rush. James W. Marshall finds gold at Sutter's Mill near Sacramento. You know, growing up in California, this was a big part of, I forget what grade, but we learned all about Sutter's Mill and how important it was to the United States and to California especially. Before this, there wasn't a lot going on in California. The United States had been a country less than 100 years at this point, and the push west had started happening, but it really wasn't a big thing. When people found out they could strike it rich in California, they started heading this direction. Sutter's Mill obviously was the spark that made California grow. Now, I'm sure in other states they have similar stories that, you know, if you grew up in Oklahoma or you grew up in Wisconsin, you probably don't know much about Sutter's Mill. And I'm sure there's something that went on in those states that I know nothing about. 1916, in Brushaber versus Union Pacific Railroad, the Supreme Court of the United States declares the federal income tax is constitutional. It's weird to think that at one point it was up for debate. I'm sure there's a lot of people right now that think it should be up for debate. I don't appreciate writing that check every year, but I have to. It's how we keep the wheels on the bus. 1933, the 20th Amendment to the United States Constitution is ratified, changing the beginning and end terms for all elected officials. Now, this is strange, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I think every elected official should have a term limit of sorts. The president can only serve 2 terms. Why are there congressmen and congresswomen and senators and I guess senators? There's no female version of senators. I mean, there are female senators. They just don't have a word for a female senator. But those people, some of them stay there forever. Mitch McConnell first became a senator in 1985. Dianne Feinstein's been there since 1992. But I think 12 or 16 years should be enough. I mean, if you're in Congress for 12 years or 16 years and you go to the Senate, okay, there's another 12 or 16 years. But when you've been there for like 45 years or something, that just seems like, I don't know, there's too much of an opportunity for corruption. Now, the 20th Amendment does lay out different things for the president, the vice president, and how things are conducted if, let's say, the president dies or the vice president dies. It also changed the date when the president takes office, which is now January 20th. 1943, during World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill conclude a conference in Casablanca. 1946, the United Nations General Assembly passes the first resolution to establish the United Nations Atomic Energy Commission. 1984, Apple Computer places the Macintosh personal computer on sale in the United States. 1987, about 20,000 protesters march in a civil rights demonstration in Forsyth County, Georgia. 2003, the United States Department of Homeland Security officially begins operation. Part of that operation is taking the Coast Guard under their roof, so to speak. Before that, the Coast Guard was part of the Department of Transportation, believe it or not. I see the connection, but they should have always been with the Pentagon, in my opinion. But I will tell you one thing. Being an Army guy, we all make fun of each other. You know, the Army makes fun of the Marines. Marines make fun of the Army and Navy and all that stuff. Whenever you meet someone from the Coast Guard, It's always fun to argue with them that they're really not part of the military. They are, but still, you want to get under their skin, bring up the days that they used to get their check from the Department of Transportation. And if you want things to get heated, bring up the fact that they're just a glorified meter maid. Good times in the military. Premiered on January 24th, 2020. The Gentleman, written and directed by Guy Ritchie, the film sees a British thug lord attempt to sell his empire to a dynasty of billionaires. So he was a drug dealer and had this big empire, and he decides he wants to sell it to some billionaires. It's a pretty funny movie. Now, Guy Ritchie has done some incredibly good movies. This one was okay, but he did Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Great movies, but Snatch is one of the funniest movies you'll ever see. It's got Brad Pitt and a bunch of other, Jason Statham, a bunch of other people in it. It's really good. The Gentleman has Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Grant, Colin Farrell, and an actor named Bugsy Malone. That one's worth watching if it's on cable or something. I think it's on Netflix right now. Born on January 4th, 1950, Jennifer Flowers, singer, model, and actress who ran a successful cabaret in New Orleans called the Kelsto Club. She appeared in many television shows like Play It to the Bone. That's not what she's famous for. She's famous for having an affair with President Bill Clinton during his first campaign. She was born and raised in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma with her family. She spent years trying to parlay that whole Bill Clinton situation into a career of sorts. Died on January 24th, 1965, Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister during World War II, who encouraged bravery and endurance. He became the first honorary citizen of the United States and later the first British Prime Minister to win a Nobel Prize in Literature. I read a book on conspiracies. He was a big conspiracy guy. A lot of people don't know this, but in his later years, he really wrote a lot of letters and essays and things like that, and they're just chock full with conspiracies and weird stuff. He joined the British Army as a major with the 2nd Battalion Grenadier Guards before being elected to the seat of Oldham in 1900 in the General Parliament election. He opposed Mahatma Gandhi's peaceful disobedience revolt and wanted to prevent India from gaining independence. Winston Churchill had deteriorating health for years prior to his death. A lot of people said he was suffering from severe depression, and then he had a series of strokes. Churchill suffered his final stroke on 12 January 1965 and died 12 days later on the 24th, the 17th anniversary of his father's death. His coffin lay in state at Westminster Hall for 3 days, and the funeral ceremony was at St. Paul's Cathedral on the 30th of January. All right, that's today's video. I want to break from the normal here. If you guys want to help this channel, it really helps the stats and the algorithm. If you watch the video that's being suggested right now, that is a stat that YouTube is really looking at these days, and it would really help the channel. Watch it, put it on mute, let it play in the background. It just helps out. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.